Bangladesh, a country known to the rest of the world mainly because of its problems. Poverty, overpopulation, and in particular frequent heavy rains and disastrous floods. Regardless of the sheer size of the problems and perennially chaotic circumstances, there are people here who are committed to tackle those problems and work successfully in their respective fields. People who develop their very own way to deal with the local consequences of global climate change. I have found them here in the northwestern part of Bangladesh, in the region around the city of Rajshahi, located on the western shore of the Gangetic Delta. At Rajshahi University, I meet Golam Sattar, professor for hydrogeology at the Faculty of Geology and Mining. Beside his academic duties and scientific work, he is actively involved in local politics. He has initiated local projects, which he runs using his team, and recently he has been appointed as the environmental advisor to the mayor of Rajshahi city.
The Bangladesh is very popularly known to the international people as a flood country because most of the year we do have severe flood in the southern portion, and sometimes, due to the geographical location of Bangladesh and the geomorphological condition, the southern region mostly affected cyclone, tornadoes, and some other calamity which actually inundated the area. But if you take the other side, the northwestern region where it's standing now, the Rajshahi, is the northwestern part of the Bangladesh. Okay, and geomorphologically and the climatologically, this area is recognized as a dry land because we do have less rainfall, that is the precipitation, than the other part of the country. As for example, the country's average rainfall is more than 2,000 millimeter per year, but here we on an average receive 1,200 to 1,300 millimeter. And we have seen since last 3 or 4 years, and presumably our honorable mayor, he told you that since last 2 years we are even not receiving that amount of rainfall. So this region is basically, if you visit the northwestern region of Bangladesh, you'll have to see the drought part, as the dry part of the country.
Professor Sattar leads me to the dike that had been constructed some 150 years back by the British to protect the city of Rajshahi from the waters of River Padma, the Bengali name for the Ganges. Today we find settlers behind the dike because water has almost disappeared from the higher parts of the riverbed. After 1974, when India constructed the Farakka Dam upstream, the river flows have changed significantly, and the main riverbed has moved several kilometers east. Today, the former main riverbed at Rajshahi carries water only during monsoon.
Yes, I remember my old days when I was a schoolboy. That time the river was full and the bank was permanent. And that time we come to collect the bird's egg, it's a very small, tiny one. And we started to swim, and even we go for the river cruise this time. And that time I remember this river Padma is also used as one of the important waterway to transport the cargo. So many people, they live their life with the boat, so they lost their job and they have changed their occupation as well. Yeah. So it's a kind of economic loss, of course. Yeah. And one thing, regarding the day temperature, even the city dwellers, they complain. This is there in the month of May, even you can feel some hot air. Yeah. This is due to the sandbars.
Yes, of course.
Because the sandbar is bare, and so when there is a heat radiation, it enters in the town and it warms the city temperature.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons even.
Okay.
And if you remember the time of the erection of Farakka Barrage, it is 1974. Actually, the mess started since the 1974 because that time the river flow enormously going down. So we have very little amount of water. As a result, you have seen, and you know, this is the very normal theory. When the water, there is no longer the current in the water, then the sediment it settled down. So as a result, you have seen the bed, all the sediments is settled down on the river bed. And since then, we don't have any excavation process, that is dredging, no dredging.
Yeah.
As a result, the river bed is also going up and up. And as a result, you see the all is silted and die up.
Okay, but the people anyway, they come still here to
Yes,
enjoy their
yes,
leisure
yes.
time.
The old people like me, they came here to remember, to recall the memory, and the little boys and the others, they came here to have some fun.
Professor Sattar and his colleagues are not deterred by the problems caused by drought and climate change. Instead of sitting and complaining about the lost good old times, they are tackling the problem head-on by working hand in hand with the stakeholders at grassroots level and developing practical solutions.
Forget about the climate change in the upper level and the discussion level. It is now better to think about the field level, just to think about the stakeholder, just to think about the main proponent of the economy, who are the farmer. We have to think about them. And yes, what I have seen from my experience while working in the field, I have seen that they have some sort of their own adaptation. And actually this sort of adaptation is very amazing. And in fact, if you say it in other way, they are doing what just you say, they are learning by doing. So they have so many options, and they are really going for adaptation. When they face any problem, they just adapt accordingly. As for example, you know, that area, the dryland area, previously there was a different type of cropping system and the rice system as well. But nowadays they have changed because our farmers, they are now adapted the more high yielding variety rice, which can survive even in the dry climate. Okay, and if there is no rainfall, even it will be not so bigger problem for the harvesting season. So there some sort of, I have found real adaptation in the grassroots level. That is the agriculturist, the farmer, and the labor. They are actually doing all this sort of adaptation, and it's very interesting.
Rice is the main crop and staple food in Bangladesh. Since generations, the farmers have been very carefully using the water available in the dry season. Traditional reservoirs are a significant and lively element of community life and used not only by rural communities but also in urban areas. The ponds still exist where the pressure on land use is not very high. However, Bangladesh being the most densely populated country in the world, these ponds tend to disappear in urban areas. The area gets used for housing or business development. Not only that water for domestic purposes, like washing and other activities, now has to be carried home from nearby wells or pumped from groundwater. This has reduced the recharge of groundwater in the area and resulted in a tremendous decline of the groundwater table, which is already being threatened by an increasing demand for fresh water from a growing urban population. As of now, the number of ponds in the city of Rajshahi has already decreased significantly. Together with local authorities, Professor Sattar is giving a good fight to save the remaining ponds.
Little step.
So we are at one of these ponds now, huh?
All right, yeah. And this is very historical pond of the region, you know. And I learned from my father that this bigger pond was excavated more than 200 years back by some Hindu jamindars. And you know, that time that this pond was the main source of household work, especially for washing, for bathing. Even I learned swimming in this pond.
And is there also the function of flood retention, or as a retention basin for during the flood?
Right. Even not only the flood retention, there is also the retention of the rainwater as well.
Yeah.
So this pond has significant importance of the overall microecology of the region.
Yeah. Well, and is there a strategy of the city now to protect these ponds?
Yes, nowadays our city has taken some action, but we already made late, you know. Very recently, during the year 2008, our government, they passed a legislation regarding the choking of the pond. So nowadays, nobody can choke the pond, and the pond should remain as a pond. It cannot be converted to a agricultural land or a business land or for the settlement. But still some people, they are try to do against the law. But nowadays our city mayor and the city and the people, they are concerning for looking after the matter, they are serious. Now we try to protect the remnants of the ponds we do have now. This is very important for us.
In a water-scarce region, the principle of sharing water resources, both groundwater and surface water, holds strong even on a greater scale. For this purpose, water is pumped through a pumping station from the river Padma and transported via pipeline several kilometers into the land for the irrigation of rice fields. People here, who are involved in this system, are proud of its working. It became necessary because of the dramatic decrease of the groundwater table. And the system could be an inspiring example for other water-scarce regions. At the end of the pipelines, here at this reservoir, the water is diverted and flows in canals to the fields. And the farmers get water whenever they need it for irrigation. Here we meet an engineer from the state water company who is operating the network. He is convinced of the effectiveness of the state investment in this system.
How many square kilometers or hectares are you irrigating from this?
Around 900 hectares are irrigated from this water. We have 900 kilometers long canals we have excavated, and we have 500 cross dams. From there, the people are getting water from these canals very easily, with a very, very few cost, and they are getting the water.
In the earlier system, the farmers negotiated a lump sum of money for annual water use and were allowed to pump as much water as they wanted into their fields. With the introduction of the metered system, they now pay exactly for the amount of water used, thereby reducing both the costs and the consumption.
And everyone is getting this water by prepaid system. We have prepaid meter here, and every farmer have prepaid card. And there is a scope to recharge their card from their nearer dealers or nearer office, and they come here and they ask the operator for their water. This is the new things. This is the new thinking of irrigation system in Bangladesh. It is the rare system we have developed here by prepaid meter system or prepaid system, and the farmers they are very much happy with this system, as they are getting the water very easily. They have no scope to bargaining to someone for water. They come here and they just demand their water, and they insert the card themselves, and the pump starts. Thus, the people are getting benefit from this system. And you know, once upon a time, there was a scarcity of water in this region. People was very much eager for rain. But now they are getting water when they need from the deep tube wells as well as from the surface water, like this system.
For the farmer in northwestern Bangladesh, the system has considerably improved the situation. He gets as much water as and when he needs.
basically it's a good initiative, because in this region we have a problem with groundwater as well. So now we are thinking it will be our best strategy to create some provision to store the surface water. So where we will get the surface water? The surface water is either from precipitation or from the river water. Okay. So nowadays we have taken some initiative to dredge the old river channel. As we have seen, some people, they are dredging a old remnants of the river Padma named Joal Khali. So dredging that river, and in some area, some people, they are excavating the ponds, and presumably you heard that in the Barend region we have more than 70,000 ponds, but they are almost choked. So people are going to take the initiative to re-excavate that region.
Very simple methods are used to desilt dry riverbeds in order to reuse them as canals for the surface water flow.
Rolf, we are talking about the water table, the groundwater. They said there is a severe stress of the groundwater domain, because they reported that the last 10 years back, the depth of the water table was around 60 meters, but now the suction is 86 meters. So within 10 and 15 years, it declined almost 3 meters per year. So you can discern this is not good for the overall groundwater management.
For the communities who have settled around ponds, life depends on these reservoirs. In general, they do not own the pond. However, they are allowed to use the water, and often there are conflicts of interest with the owners.
And this is, this is a typical villages. Most of the tribal people, they made their village around the pond, so that the pond water can be used for their regular household purpose, for bathing, for washing. এই পুকুরে কি মাছ আছে?
মাছ ছিল পুকুরালার, মাছ শেষ।
মাছ কি চাষ করে
ওই পুকুরালায়। তো এখন ওই পানির অভাবে সব মারে লিয়েছে, দুই একটা কিছু টুকু আছে।
তো এই পানিতে কি আপনার ইয়ে দেয়? কি
সার
দিয়ে তো কি পানি আবার খারাপ হয়ে যায় না?
সার পানি দিয়ে আপনার চুন দিয়ে দেয়, তখন পানিটা আবার ভালো হয়।
আচ্ছা, তো এটা হলো আপনার মালিককে, আদি মালিককে জমি?
জমিওয়ালার মাল, এর পুকুরালার ওই বাড়ির এখন রাজশাহীতে বাড়ি।
He said that this is the main source of their water for their household working, and the owner of this pond, he live in a town, so he also go for some fish going project, pisciculture project, and that as well. And sometimes that man, the owner of the pond, he used some chemical fertilizer as a pond. So as a result, that time the quality of the pond is deteriorated, and that is another problem for them. But they said that sometimes that people, those who use the chemical work later on for neutralization, they use lime to neutralize all the things. But all these things are chemical process, so it is not good for them, and sometimes they have some skin problem from here, for some sort of health and hygiene problem as well.
The water problems of northwestern Bangladesh can be summarized in a comprehensive way. Nevertheless, Professor Sattar appreciates more pragmatic discussions among his colleagues. Discussions that could lead to solutions of livelihood problems in the local communities.
When we need rain, we are not getting that rain, and when our crop is almost ripened, it is close to harvesting, then there is huge amount of rain. Then again it's created a problem. So people, they live in the basically the stakeholder. In this region, the main stakeholders are the farmer. So we talk with them how they are coping with this sort of climate change. and we received some information. They said that basically, though they are not giving any directives, they are not receiving any directives from the government or from other expertise level, but they are trying to coping with their own self. They try to adapt by their own means. As for example, when I asked them what you will do with the water, they said, okay, we'll use less amount of water, that will be the better. And when I asked them, what about your crop strategy, they said, we're looking for some crop, some seeds which are best tolerant for the drought. I think the scientific people, they must have to go down to them and they learn how they are doing and how they are adapting themselves. It's a very fine thing.
Therefore, from time to time, he visits communities in remote areas where the villagers have to deal with the consequences of climate change on a day-to-day basis. We take a boat to the river Sandbox, where people settled since ages. Here, the Padma still flows, and people live as their ancestors used to live, in close contact with the river. These villages can be accessed only by boat. The river is the main means of transportation for people, for goods, and for cattle. The villagers here have noticed changes. Land is subject to erosion, and farms close to the water disappear. A farmer who loses his land does not get any compensation. It's a race against time. People have to move before the river claims their land.
What's this here?
Actually, it was a house. You see, there's some remnants since the river erosion started. So people, they live close to the river. They are now migrating some other places. You can see these are fireplaces, and it may be their main room or something like that. So even you can see there is some another dismantling places. Formerly there was a house. Even I have seen a few years back there was a good house. So you never know. We don't have proper statistics actually where they are going. If they have some land, they are moving back, or other they are migrating towards the town for that time. So that's the thing.
Yeah. So we may go to the village.
Yeah, sure. It's better if we go deeper down. We can see the real scenario, what is happening there. So it's better we can move this direction. You have to move left side.
Left side?
Left side.
Yes.
Be careful your head.
Few meters off the river, we find traditional village life. Cropping, husbandry, manufacturing. Everything seems to be functioning like it probably did since last 100 years. Rice is still being threshed using human power instead of electricity.
Can I go there?
And cow dung is used as fuel for cooking. Very professionally fixed and dried on wooden sticks, it is the main source of thermal energy. But the same villages are also undergoing significant changes. Modern technology adapted to traditional way of living is being introduced. On some rooftops, we find solar panels installed by companies and offered under special conditions. For the owner of this little tea shop, the investment on solar panel is paying off. More people now come to buy his items or drink tea, and there is the attraction to watch TV powered by solar panels.
Mobile charger.
Tata. Excuse me.
We can see even in the remote area there is a light, so it's a good place. আপনার এটা আপনি কতদিন হলো লাগিয়েছেন? হ্যাঁ, সোলারটা। I asked him when he installed this panel, and he said that it is around 3 years before. But talking with some other people in the village, I understand that the solar system actually came here, say 7 or 8 years back. And the company actually, they came here and they invite them to install solar panel as well. And you see there's some and they said that though it's a little bit expensive, but the company they made some installment and some other things. So if it is cost around 30,000 taka, so they have to pay 5,000 taka. So in terms of euros, the total cost is around 300 euro, but initially they have to pay 50 euro. And later on the basis of the installation, say per month 5 to 8 euro, they just pay back money within 4 or 5 years time. And they said that this is a very good one, and they have a guarantee from the company that this solar system will run at least 20 years and under their supervision. And they said that even it will run another 20 years. So it's a good, they said, that this device. And that man, you see, he can manage to run not only one bulb light, but one fans, and sometimes also in the evening time they also use CD players, some televisions for their amusement. So in the evening time, এখানে কি সন্ধ্যার পরে লোকজন আসে, আপনার এখানে টেলিভিশন আছে? So after the evening, some villagers, they gathered here to enjoy the TV, and it's a kind of amusement, they said.
Here, in the northwest of Bangladesh, I met people who do not complain about nor blame others for their problems. They are self-starters who try to solve their own problems using traditional knowledge and adapting modern technology to their situation. Building capacity to handle their own problems is a better way to assist sustainable development in a country rather than implementing external aid programs. And Professor Sattar is a vivid example. He is a 2001 alumnus of the SIPSIM Environmental Management Training Program.
Which I think which is most important, they have the opportunity to build a contact with the individual person, with the individual professor. So later on that can be used. And nowadays, you know, the SIPSIM also is create its own alumni. So now we are linked with internet. We have our own domain. So still till today, if I feel any problem, I can throw this problem to my colleagues, to my participant around the world. So with a very short time, I can receive the solution as well. So in fact, it increases our working potentiality as an individual, and it also breeds some sort of relation, not on personal level but also in scientific level. And maybe you have seen that if there is any international projects, so the SIPSEM alumni, they try to ask someone, okay, do you like to join this project, do you like to develop this project? So this way and that other way, that create a good opportunity for capacity building and the other sector as well, scientific sector as well.
For the last 3 decades, SIPSEM has been imparting scientific training and practical support to environmental experts from the developing world. This promotes networks among committed people who are prepared and willing to contribute to the progress of their community, of their region, by using the knowledge and training given by SIPSEM. Thus, some of the success stories in northwestern Bangladesh, in the region of Rajshahi, are a result of the capacity building concept developed and successfully used by SIPSEM.
Ja, denke ich auch. Dann lassen wir es.